All right, man, we're live. Salam alaikum.
Are we?
Good afternoon to you. Good morning to our drivers. Welcome back to another daily updates with A&M.
We are live. We are live, consistent, up and running. A little bit late today, but everyone know
Munir has
we will
gotten a
come up.
bad haircut, so he's disguising the top of his head. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, tomorrow I scheduled my haircut. I scheduled my haircut for tomorrow.
A man of your caliber, man. I'm surprised that the barbers don't come to you.
Well, maybe one day. Maybe one day. Maybe one day we'll have our own barber. We come
Royal
in,
Blue
the
barber.
barber, Royal Blue barber, and we just don't think about that.
That's right.
People used to have that. Like people used to have that. Like every little street had its own thing, and you would just appear. You wouldn't have to schedule if you need to, as if you need to schedule the heart surgery. Now is everything is
I
like the
know.
barbers. They became a royalty of
I
sorts. So
know.
they you need to schedule everything 7 days ahead with pleases
I
and
know.
thank yous and
Is it
everything
like
else.
that
Come
over
on,
there
dude.
too?
It is, man. It is, and it's
It's
getting
crazy.
more and more expensive as
Uh-huh.
well. I mean, there are some fancy places they're doing some like a fire thing, and then doing like with your head, and then at the end of the day,
Fire?
the same thing. Yes, like with fire,
Do they
like
juggle at the
Instagram.
same time? Eat swords and
I don't know.
stuff?
Yeah, there's the Instagram tag. There's one very famous barber in Sarajevo. It's famous like a region famous, not just Sarajevo famous, and he's doing that Instagram stuff with fire and he's like the main barber for celebrities and stuff like that.
Man, I wouldn't be surprised if you started using him soon then. You're
No,
reaching that celebrity status in Bosnia.
we'll see, man. We'll see. You never know what's gonna happen. Although, lay low, man. Lay low.
All right, let's dive in. Yesterday we had 52 available drivers, 38 of which we managed to book on 49 loads. So 11 of our drivers had multiple loads, while 14, is that the number? Failed
It
to get
is.
booked. My assumption is that in a lot of cases is they came available later in the afternoon. In any
Mhm.
case, 73% of our fleet was utilized. Our bid win ratio was 8.5%, and the average driver pay being at $620. How do you feel
Yeah.
about the day?
Well, Mondays, I think we discussed this like briefly a couple of minutes ago outside of the recording, but Mondays tend to be super competitive. You need to place more bids to book drivers, and part of the reason is there's a lot of driver waiting for a load over the weekend, and then there's the competition out there is super high. Of course, we're trying to compete with that with different changes and different strategies, and but as you can see, that strategy is not working for all drivers. Sadly, it did not work yesterday for all drivers. So it was not the greatest day, but still, I think in the afternoon we managed to book some great loads, and you'll see later.
Yes, sir. Okay.
The
So we
ideal scenario, sorry to interrupt, for drivers out there, the ideal scenario is always to book as many as possible before the noon, but it
right.
doesn't always happen, and we end up booking you guys in afternoon in after hours. The good thing is we have 24/7, and you can be booked by people at 10 p.m., 2 a.m., whenever the load comes up. And thank you guys for being so vigilant to stay available for those as well. We understand how difficult it is to be awake the whole day and then get booked 10 p.m. and do a shipment.
Yeah, absolutely. This is also, I mean, Mondays are competitive. This is also why we encourage people to set future availability for Monday on Fridays, for example, when they get home, because it gives us a couple extra days to book you rather than waiting for Monday when there's a million drivers available. Kind of a breakdown of what happened yesterday. So, 400 of our loads, of the available loads expired, which is actually a drop in the normal. Normally, we have like 33%. Looks like it's down to about 25% of the opportunity. So, we're headed in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 273 were declined by dispatch, 260 were automatically declined due to drivers' red states, and 110 were declined by drivers themselves. 586 bids were lost, meaning we placed the bid, but the broker or customer chose to go a different direction. And 49 were won. That was the amount of loads that we booked. What we got
Let's
here?
move to code red. Code red. Code
All
red.
right.
Let me go through this. Let me go through this. So good thing is the list from yesterday is almost gone entirely because as you can see, only two drivers that were on the list yesterday are here, and both of them are in a pretty tough spot. Now, quick update on the 013 that is in Essex Junction, Vermont. He is booked as of now, like 30 minutes ago, and this was created, of course, before that. So he's still on the list, but he's removed. So we have only one long, long, long PIT that we need to deal with, and it's our driver in California. He had a phenomenal week last week. He crossed whatever 4,000 miles last week, but this week has started really slow. He's available since Friday night, and we still didn't book him. He's moved from Oregon to San Francisco. Now Sacramento. Now the we had enough opportunities, 17 bids yesterday to book the driver. I saw that we try to be competitive with rates, but also on a couple of occasions we saw that we could have actually go down on the rate, and we did. So I already spoke with the team to call the driver, not immediately, of course, he's in California, and to discuss just um, um, these 23 missed opportunities to go there and make sure that we don't miss again on 23 opportunities, because right now uh, he might have he has let's say Midwest green, or we trying to book into Midwest, but we're losing on some opportunities down to Texas. So it's
Mm-hmm.
better to go to Texas on a whatever 75, 80 cents a mile, but to get out of there than to be stuck for another day. So he's number one priority. As I said, 013 is booked. Others, 575, tough spot, Aberdeen, South Carolina. He lives there. Now, today we told him that to relocate to a better spot because, as you can see, only four bids yesterday. 492, Fargo, North Dakota, five bids. The driver relocated from Manitoba. He delivered yesterday morning in Manitoba, got available, and relocated back to Fargo. 092, that's Houston, Texas. Another, tough spot, really a lot of missed opportunities. We will discuss this with the driver as well today. 505, Fargo, North Dakota. Driver delivered in Alberta yesterday morning and relocated back to Fargo. He was on the road yesterday, so zero bids pretty much on him. Reason being the relocation from Alberta to Fargo. So the list is looking better than yesterday, but still we have a couple of drivers that are waiting for extensive period of time that we noticed what we need to do when it comes to strategy to book them, and we will of course deal with it in the coming hours.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's important, man. The more limitations you have, the more likely you are to get stuck. So the more missed opportunities that we see, the longer people end up waiting. Yesterday, a major delay was caused by the shipper providing a bill of lading that did not match the shipment information we received from the customer. The piece count, weight, and address were not matching the rate sheet, but the freight matched the rate sheet. We need to wait for the customer to confirm what we are loaded with and provide us with an updated BOL. These instances rarely happen, but when they do, we need our drivers to communicate out everything that happened at the shipper so we can resolve the issue. It's so important too for drivers not to leave the shipper until they've actually confirmed that everything looks good.
Mm-hmm.
We've had countless cases where people leave and drive a couple hundred miles just to have to go back. We've actually had a number of cases where we deliver the wrong freight and then we have to
Mm,
take it back to the shipper and no one pays us a penny for it because
mm,
we made the mistake of leaving the shipper. Listen, guys, in these situations, where in order to win we're gonna have to get into a confrontation with the shipper or the customer, or we're gonna have to play the blame game. Unfortunately, in most of those instances, we end up losing that game, right? Because we are relying on their freight, and we are taking the ultimate ownership and responsibility of that freight. So make sure you're checking these things um, early before you leave the shipper, and not finding yourself in a case where you've invested, 300 miles into a shipment, and then you have to kind of flush it all down the toilet.
Right. The communication on pickup, on delivery, mandatory as well for our drivers, that we need to make sure that we're punctual, that we know everything is right. And majority of times, our drivers are very good with this. And now that we receive notifications when they're loaded, when they offloaded, and so on, we also make sure that we double check on our end. Thank you guys for your hard work.
Okay, so what do we got here?
Spotlight.
Go ahead.
Mr. Leo Sarm, one of the new drivers, 639. I think he's with us for less than a month, and he had a huge week last week. He crossed 5,880 miles. Oregon, North Carolina was the first load. Um, Duncan, South Carolina to Texas, then Texas to Eagle Pass down to the border, and then Eagle Pass back to Michigan. Now, if if it took him 7 days to cross this, he crossed 840 miles a day. So he was more than what we actually do systematically, around
Yeah,
700
so
miles.
he didn't. We would never do that. We would never book loads that would require more than what we systematically and safely do. This obviously had him picking up that first load on the 29th, so it
Oh,
actually made the whole thing whatever 9 or 10 days, depending on how many days there were. But that pickup was probably on a Friday, delivered on Monday, so that's why it's part of that week. So 2,800 of those miles happen over the weekend, part of the previous week. But nevertheless, the way that we count loads is we look at the delivery date. So
right.
yeah, I mean, amazing all around. A huge week, big earnings, staying busy obviously, and then still getting that proper time in between loads to catch up to rest and all of that.
Indeed.
So good job,
I said
Leo.
indeed. I said indeed again.
We appreciate your hard work. All right, man. Looks like we're adding another bubble into our race again. We're back to full force. So yesterday, Hottest had the most amount of bids with 192. He booked the most amount of loads. He had the highest follow-up ratio. Phenomenal job, Hottest, as always. Highest ever driver pay. Good to see. And then Vedad, as Muniz said earlier, kind of came in and saved the day with that night performance, with booking 12 loads as well, with a very high bid-win ratio as well. So just have others replicate what Vedad did with regards to the bid-win ratio, and we
So
should
we'll
be
move
good.
everyone to work night shift, and we'll
There you
leave
go.
one person to work first shift, and I think that'll be it.
There you go. I like it. I like it. All right, man. The best load from yesterday was a Texas to North Dakota,
Listen, man,
1,500 miles for 1,800. What are your thoughts on this one?
I have my hairs on my arm will stand up because
In
Midland,
honor of
Texas,
this load.
in honor of this load, Midland, Texas, for you guys that don't know Texas, Midland, Texas is where No Country for Old Men movie was filmed. That's where you just have that thing rolling around the bush from the Western movies. And we picked up this bush in Midland, Texas, and we carried it up to North Dakota. And it's a beautiful load. Look at it. This driver placed a bid on this Midland, Texas, going to North Dakota. My assumption why we got this rate is because there's no one else there. It's a
Right.
wasteland when it comes to there's not a lot of drivers really out there. Everyone is either in El Paso, Amarillo, or Dallas.
Hmm.
So that's probably it when it comes
Yeah,
to
this
this
is
load.
one of those weird things, man. We book an amazing load out of a terrible area, and there was probably somebody in Louisville that was, waiting for the whole day.
Yeah,
Those things
yeah,
happen. Next up, we got an Indiana to Ontario. These Ontario loads, man, it's like every day we go over one or two of these.
and still
773
we have
miles for
people,
900.
complaining about Canada loads, guys. Um,
One of our drivers actually was posting on Facebook their frustration with Canada and asking, is it even worth going to Canada anymore? And back in the day, the Canada loads paid a really good fee. They probably paid 30, 40, 50 a mile. And yeah, I mean, if this same load was going to Michigan for 773 miles, it would have been 80 cents a mile, 85, maybe
hmm
90. So you're
hmm
looking
hmm
at around 650, maybe
hmm
700.
100%,
And,
yeah.
by it going to Ontario instead, you're getting 250 or 200 more. Well, you do that a couple times a week. On average, you're able to earn 400 or 500 more per week going to Canada. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you multiply that out over a year, I think it comes out to be like $20,000 more you earn. Now, people make the
Here's the
argument fuel is more expensive and this and that. Come on, I mean, in most cases, guys, we're talking about Ontario. The difference in fuel between Buffalo, Detroit, and Toronto is not of any significance. It is not. And in most
eh,
cases, you can even get away with just fueling in the U.S. and doing some minimum
100%.
fueling. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah. That's the thing about the Canada loads. People sometimes, I've had drivers, I don't know how rightfully or not, but I had drivers complaining about treatment on the border as well, and that being the reason. I don't know what you think about that. You've crossed into Canada, you've been there.
They they,
How
they
is that
can be
treatment?
they can be assholes, especially the American side. Um, but here's what I'll say. It's never past be for for me, and every story I've heard, it never goes past them being slightly rude, right? So they'll ask you a question you don't hear, and you go, "Excuse me, I didn't hear you," and they'll go, "I said how many boxes are in there? Are you listening?" Whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's never past them being a bit rude. But here's my thing, man. Like, if I'm out here working, if I'm out here doing this job away from my family, already sacrificing as much as I sacrifice, like, you can go to a truck stop in Louisiana and the cashier can be rude. You know what I
hmm
mean? Like, I might as well make that extra money 90% of time. You don't have to deal with anything at the border anyways. I mean, you give them your papers, they scan it, and they let you go. Every once in a while, you run into that, rude person, but it's not enough to tilt and to say, you know what, it's not worth going anymore.
We have actually just one moment. We have a comment from the most active viewer ever, Ala Farid. He said he met Leo, our driver from the Spotlight, yesterday at a truck stop. He's a nice man, has previous experience, and is enthusiastic and happy to work with us. Nice feedback.
Love it.
And also, Ala Farid hopes to go to Canada every day. Oh, we hope to book you to Canada every day, brother.
Love it. Love it. Next up, we got a PA to Ontario, 290 miles for 450. Not a humongous load, man, but 300 miles, it's about 5 hours, maybe six with everything for
hmm
$450. That's a pretty good amount to earn and end
hmm
up in the best area for loads as well. So it's a win-win.
hmm
Okay, so tips for easier communication. Always keep in mind that we are a team. We are available 24/7 for you. Let dispatch know if you want to relocate from your current spot or ask if you need to relocate if you're unsure. feeling sleepy, rest and update your future availability either manually or by advising dispatch. Unsure of what to bid on, uh, but dissatisfied with the rates, give us a call. Um,
I
Go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge something I heard this morning when I came in. One of the drivers called Haris and asked him, how many drivers there is in Chicago, meaning BHX drivers. So just wanted to clarify a little bit, about that. So within the company, we're never competition to each other in reality. If you're in Chicago, there's probably 300 other drivers that are or companies that are competing for the same load.
Mm-hmm.
So you're never competition to each other. And however many drivers of BHX is there, we have a we have procedures within the company that clearly clarify when it comes to just who's getting the first load and not. Of course, we prioritize waiting time, and that's just a natural thing to do. But you guys are never competition to each other. We're not bidding separate some three bids on three drivers. No, we're not doing that. So you're competition to other companies out there. And if you're in Chicago, there's probably another 150 vans and companies out there trying to get the same load. So just please understand that as as something important, that when you're with BHX, we're all a team, and we have to, of course, we have a procedure within the company, but it's the U.S. is too big of a market for us to for you to worry about one BHX driver.
Yeah, this is a fight, man, that I've been battling with and I've been having for 10 years with drivers to try to get them to understand that how many BHX drivers are anywhere matters far less than how many total drivers are in that area. I mean, you take a place like Chicago, there's probably 100 to 150 available drivers at any given moment. And it's so funny to me that people are concerned about, well, how many BHX drivers are there? It's like, does it matter at all? I mean, it literally does not matter because we're competing with the 100. We're not competing with the one other one. And it's just a matter of perspective, for people to understand how we operate. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, as far as this slide goes, definitely remember we are a team. We're, I think, different than a lot of carriers out here nowadays because we do try to create that proper relationship with our drivers. We do try to think, on their behalf as well and think about what's best for them. We're not pariahs, just trying to make a buck off of our guys at whatever cost. So, if we're advising you something, it's with your best interest in mind. I can proudly say we have never and we will never advise somebody towards something because we think it's best for us. It's always holistically what is best for the team BHX, which includes first and foremost what's best for our drivers. Um, okay, we got daily stats. 60 on-time arrivals yesterday. Phenomenal job. Only 2 late stops. 97% on-time performance. Right in the area we want to be at. Great job, everybody. We appreciate your hard work. We, talk about on-time performance all the time. It's the most important thing for us as far as performance goes. Proper communication and on-time performance. And as we always say, your safety is always the number one priority. If you need to pull over for any reason, if it's not safe for you to drive, I would much rather us be late on every single load we do than to have one accident, that we could have avoided. So, um, daily quotes by Jordan Peterson. This man went from being a celebrity within our community to being a bit of a villain with some of his stances, but uh, them are
Or
the ebbs and flows.
yeah,
Compare
compare.
yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today.
Yeah.
How do you
This
feel
is
about that?
Yeah, this is like a self-centric view, and you can be like you can have a self-centric view, or you can have a someone else-centric view, or you can look up to someone or look up to your past self. So he's self-centric view where you are looking at yesterday and saying, okay, yesterday I was a dispatcher. That's professionally. I booked 5 loads. Today I booked 15. Yay. Or yesterday I was not in the gym. Today I am in the gym. So I'm better version of myself today. So
Right.
that's what he's pointing at.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I also,
I
sorry,
think in
go.
today's world, there's more than ever in the history of mankind comparison, the toxic, unhealthy comparison, because so many people are putting out on social media a unrealistic picture of their life. They're making it seem like their life is just perfect and they
Hmm.
have every single aspect of it on lockdown. So, this is something that like maybe your generation and older doesn't really suffer from because you grew up in a time when it wasn't as prevalent. But I think younger generations do because they grew up with more with social media and they're falling into the trap of comparing their life, their achievement, their successes, their earnings, their car, their clothes, their physical transformation, whatever, with a random person online. And years ago, this wasn't possible because people couldn't share those intimate aspects of their life as easily, and we didn't have so much access to each other. Um, and I think it's the source of so much anxiety and depression and mental health issues with the younger generations because they're reflecting on someone else's life, and it's not even a realistic portrait. It's not even a realistic picture of that person's life. It's this, curated, photoshopped, very selected, couple of images that are meant to represent what their life holistically looks like, whereas, their life is just as in shambles as the rest of ours are. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you in inwardly instead of comparing yourself to others, if you just compare yourself to your past versions and try to get better every day, um, you'll be much happier and you'll actually grow.
I think so too. Yeah, there's that saying from I don't know who, but curse is the day where when I don't learn something new or where I don't change for us slightly bit. So looking at yourself, of course, is better for mental health. That's a word just thrown around a lot because looking at someone else is just you might end up, how do I say, shooting too high, or shooting too low in some instances and then not achieve that change. But everyone, look, man, at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, I think every rational man, if he has that small talk with himself, you know where you're at, man. You know where you're at. You know your flaws. You know something that you're hiding from everyone else. You know what you did good, what you didn't do. I mean, just if you rationally look at it, and if you are willing to have that battle with yourself, you might expect progress on that field.
Yeah, I agree. What is the average fuel efficiency for most cargo vans? 10 to 12,
Eh,
15 to 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. What do you think?
for some of our drivers, like 80 to 100. It's a joke. It's a joke, of course. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. What do you think? You've been a driver of cargo van. I know like
I know
10
it's
to
one of
12,
these
12.
four, yeah.
I don't know, 10 to 12, right? Just should be like that.
No, I would say 15 to 20. Let's see. Yeah. So the best is Ford Transit. Yeah, but this is that like true cargo van, that Ford Transit. Even the Ram ProMaster City, I don't think it's like that big cargo van that we work with, right? So I think down here is more accurate. Ram ProMaster, it looks like about 16, 17 Ford Transit, 16, 17 Mercedes-Benz. Transit diesel gets over 20. Um, but yeah, I mean, we have drivers that keep up with this very meticulously, and they know exactly how much they're spending on fuel and all of that kind of stuff. Um, and we have some that don't keep up with it at all. It can be a good tool for sure. Knowing what you're spending, calculating your expenses, calculating your cost of driving, every mile, including fuel maintenance and other things. Um, but yeah, good.
Tolls, tolls, man. Some of our drivers, of course, drivers. They, you guys, you do the hardest job, and we the most difficult job. We understand that, but of course, sometimes when you have a conversation, we tend to sometimes exaggerate, maybe, and you tend to sometimes exaggerate. So it's a funny situation. If you book a drive, we had a situation when we book a drive Detroit, Michigan to New York City or New York, whatever, and they have a tolls on the east along the way. They'll say something like, "I have $150 of tolls," and when you go and check, it's like $30. So it's tolls as well is like adding to the fuel consumption and everything else. We try to, of course, um, we try to have a reasonable approach. We understand that part of the rate on every load is fuel and tolls and everything else. That's why it's not the same rate. State to state is not the same. Region to region is not the same. And those things are taken into account.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, man, that's a good place to stop. We'll be back tomorrow, God willing.